June 30th. Early morning. Police are standing by the trash containers outside a student apartment complex. A strong gust of wind suddenly shifts direction. The smell hits them and stops everyone in their tracks. It is the smell of decomposition. Officers open one of the containers. Inside, there is a black bag. Inside the bag, there is a woman's torso. Within minutes, they already know who they are looking for. 27-year-old Lauren Giddings, a law student. She had disappeared a few days earlier from her apartment across from campus. The door had been locked. No signs of forced entry. No signs of a struggle. But in the bathroom, there was blood. A lot of blood. Someone had tried to wash it away. The last thing she did was write a message. She was convinced someone had been entering her apartment, that someone was watching her. No one believed her. Now her body is scattered across trash containers. Police begin checking everyone nearby. Friends, exes, neighbors. Everyone cooperates, except one. A 25-year-old student who lived right next door. He was among those helping search for Lauren, giving interviews to reporters, watching every move the police made, and at the same time, refusing to let them into his apartment. When they finally bring him in for questioning, he barely moves. He does not blink, he does not answer, and inside his apartment, they find things that should not be there. That is when it becomes clear. This is not a disappearance. This is something far worse, and this is only the beginning. Hey guys, I'll steal just a quick minute of your time. I'm really curious where my audience is watching from, so I'd love to ask you to drop your city and what time it is for you right now. Thanks for sticking with me. Go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I'll keep going. On a city in central Georgia. Today, we're getting to know 27-year-old Lauren Giddings. She was born to Karen and Bill, had two sisters, Sarah and Caitlin, and she was the oldest. They were a very close family, and they used to joke that the real star of the household was Lauren's dog, Butterbean. Lauren was always driven, and her dream was to become a public defender. In the spring of 2008, she moved from Maryland to Mon, Georgia, to pursue that goal. Locals say life there is calm and steady, people are friendly, and strangers are rare. Overall, it is a quiet and peaceful place to live and study. Lauren quickly felt right at home. She was in a long-distance relationship with David Van Diver, a corporate attorney she had met 4 years earlier at his law firm in Atlanta. Even though she was 2 decades younger than him, they had a lot in common, and David often said she was wise beyond her years. They connected instantly, shared the same work ethic, had a similar, dry, slightly offbeat sense of humor, and supported each other through some very difficult personal and professional times. David described her as open, intelligent, and incredibly grounded. Lauren even managed to win over his very protective older sister, something he used to joke was a real achievement because no one had ever managed to do that before. Lauren had no idea that David was planning to propose to her. He had already chosen the perfect place, but the long distance after her move made things complicated, and for a while they went their separate ways. Lauren started seeing another student named Joe, but she quickly realized she was still deeply in love with David and truly wanted to save that relationship, so she ended things with Joe. He was heartbroken, but they remained good friends. Fast forward to June 2011, Lauren had just graduated from one of the oldest law schools in the United States, Mercer University School of Law. Of course, her dog Butterbean was there to see her receive her diploma, and so were David and her entire family. Now, Lauren was excited to put everything she had learned into practice and fully step into this new chapter of her life. The next big step was passing the Georgia bar exam, and she dedicated every free moment to studying. After graduation, she traveled back to Maryland for her sister Caitlin's wedding and told everyone that after this, she needed to focus and take her studies seriously. Her family understood that this would be the last time they would all be together for a while, which made that day even more special. Like many graduates, Lauren decided to stay in Mon instead of returning to Baltimore. She lived on the second floor of Barrister's Hall in apartment number 2. Barristers Hall was built specifically for law students and was located prama across from campus, making it easy to keep visiting professors and use the library while preparing for the exam, so staying there a little longer just made sense. But at home, in her own apartment, her safe and quiet space soon started to feel very different. Lauren told her sister about something she could not prove, and she knew it sounded strange, but she was convinced it was happening. She felt like something was off, like someone had been entering her apartment. Whenever she came back, after being away, there was this strange energy she could not explain. She felt like someone was watching her, but there were no signs of forced entry, so she could not understand how that was even possible. That unsettling feeling would not go away. And on June 25th, 2011, late at night, she sent David an email about her concerns. David reassured her, saying it was probably just some pranksters messing around without any real intent to do harm. Besides, she had been studying nonstop and barely leaving her apartment, so it was possible she had just been cooped up for too long and was starting to overthink things. Lauren then sent out a group message where she wrote the following. Hey guys, I'm fully diving into exam prep right now, so please don't be upset if I don't respond to messages or emails. In the days that followed, there was no word from her at all. Other than going to church and occasionally working out, she really did not do much besides studying, so at first, a few unread messages and missed calls did not raise any alarms. But her best friend Katie and her sister Caitlin kept trying to reach her again and again, with no response. Caitlin was on her honeymoon, sending photos, and it felt strange that Lauren was not replying to any of them. At that point, it no longer seemed like she was just busy. It started to feel like something was wrong. A classmate named Ashley called Caitlin and asked her to go check on Lauren's apartment to make sure everything was okay. Before heading over, Ashley tried calling Lauren too, but her phone was already going straight to voicemail. Ashley and her boyfriend drove over to her building and noticed Lauren's car was still parked outside. Using a spare key, they went inside. Lauren's belongings were scattered around, but that did not seem too unusual since she had been preparing to move in with David. But when they looked at her calendar and saw the date, it hit them she was supposed to move out the very next day, June 30th. Then they found her bag, her law books, her phone, and her laptop, things everyone knew she would never just leave behind. So where was she? Ashley started calling friends and people she knew in the complex. Even Lauren's ex, Joe, began searching for her around campus, while others checked the surrounding area. Everyone agreed the last time anyone had heard from her was 4 days earlier at an end-of-year party. She had left the next morning, and everything seemed normal. Just a few hours later, she had emailed David, mentioning her concerns about someone possibly entering her apartment. The next morning, with still no answers, they decided to call the police, and her family set out on a nearly 12-hour drive to Georgia to help. At 9 in the morning, officers arrived at apartment number 2 in Barristers Hall. Right away, it was clear, no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle, and nothing appeared to be stolen. But everyone agreed something was definitely off. They began carefully searching each room, and one of the first steps was using luminol spray to check for traces of blood. Everything looked clean at first, but when they used it in Lauren's bathroom, the result was completely different. Her bathtub had clearly been filled with blood. At that moment, police realized they were most likely no longer searching for a missing person, but for Lauren's body. June 30th was a hot day with strong winds. As they stepped outside to come up with a new search plan, a sudden gust of wind carried a smell straight toward them. They were standing near the trash containers, and the stench made them freeze. It was unmistakable, the smell of a decomposing human body. One of the officers said,
"When we were standing there, the wind suddenly shifted direction. In life, we all come across unpleasant smells. But the smell of a body, especially one that's decomposing, is one of the worst things you can ever experience."
Police opened the containers and made a horrifying discovery that would stay with them forever. Inside, there was a woman's torso wrapped in a black bag. Forensic testing still needed to be done, But given Lauren's disappearance and the luminol results in her bathroom, they had very little doubt that it was part of her body.
I had never seen anything like that before. Who could have done this? Because honestly, only a monster is capable of something like that.
It was absolutely horrifying. One of the detectives later said that, in a strange twist of fate, the police cars parked near the entrance had blocked the garbage truck from pulling in to collect everything. If the officers had not been there at that exact moment, if they had not sealed off the area, all of it could have been gone before the search even began. As they suspected, forensic testing confirmed it was Lauren Giddings' torso. The chief medical examiner later stated there were no signs of sexual assault, but the exact cause of death could not be determined. It was believed she had been killed and dismembered on June 26th. Lauren's apartment, especially the bathroom, was processed for fingerprints and any other trace evidence. But it looked like everything had been cleaned with extreme care, and only luminol revealed anything at all. Outside, the area was secured, and police tried to keep the discovery quiet. If this was someone from the apartment complex, they did not want it to become known that the body had already been found, so no one would have the chance to run or destroy more evidence. One officer said, "You have to look at the people closest to the victim, either romantically or geographically. Those who had taken part in the initial search, Ashley, Joe, and others, were asked to come in and give statements, they also spoke with her partner, David, but not only was he devastated, he was in California on a golf trip and his alibi checked out. It quickly became clear he had nothing to do with it. Lauren's ex, Joe, was in a similar position and was also ruled out. Authorities wanted to search every apartment in the building to begin eliminating possibilities. Everyone agreed, everyone except one person, 25-year-old Stephen McDaniel. So why was that a problem? They wondered. It's just a legal habit of mine. I always protect my personal space, he said. He explained that he was also a law student preparing for the bar exam and had been living next door to Lauren since their first year, apartment number 4. He had even been among those helping in the initial search for Lauren, walking alongside her friends, and even with someone who had been asked to come into the station just hours earlier.
With me is her next door neighbor who lives in apartment 4. Can I get your last name?
McDaniel. Stephen McDaniel.
When was the last time you think you seen Lauren?
It was either last week or the week before that. I was coming back from bar prep and I was driving back and I saw her going out to run.
Is there anything that you could tell me today or add to your statement that could help me locate Lauren?
I can't think of anything. We looked around to see if there was a note or if there was anything, but there was just nothing that we could find to try and figure out where she was.
They continued searching the rest of the building, but they kept a close eye on him. His behavior felt off. On one hand, he refused to cooperate, but on the other, he stayed nearby, almost like he was trying to keep track of everything that was happening. Stephen remained there the entire day, watching what others were doing and even following the police as they went in and out of other people's apartments. That raised even more suspicion, especially when reporters started showing up. He was one of the first to approach them, speaking on camera and even sharing his own theories about what might have happened to Lauren.
That was living there?
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. No one has seen her since Saturday. The last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time, anything like that?
No one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. You always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much. She's as nice as can be. Very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know where she is. The only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because we went over. One of her friends had a key. We went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss. But she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. The door was locked when everyone got here.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they had recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you heard anything? Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. That's why we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
At that point, only a few people knew what had been found in the container. After the interview, Stephen sat there for a long time, just staring off into empty space.
No, they haven't confirmed, at least not with us, that it was Lauren that they found. Are you holding out any hope right now?
I hope, but...
You hadn't heard anything about a body until you were talking to us earlier?
No. No, as far as any of us knew, they were still trying to just find her. Joe, he got onto her computer last night to see if she had said anything. She'd sent an email out to some people. There was an email that she sent out after 10 that night where she sent to, I think it was someone in Atlanta, a friend of hers in Atlanta. She was afraid in her apartment that she thought that someone had tried to break in on Thursday night. And she was afraid to stay in there. But...
Where did you hear that from? From Joe?
He pulled it up and we read it off the screen.
You hadn't heard anything on Thursday night?
No.
She never came to you to tell you anything?
No, she was afraid in her apartment, then, get her out of there.
A few hours later, he finally allowed police to enter his apartment. Inside, he had stockpiled food, energy drinks, and various weapons. Officers searched through the drawers and found different items, including condoms. When they pulled them out, Stephen muttered something about being a virgin and saving himself for marriage. He went on to say he was registered on the dating site eHarmony, but admitted he had not had much luck with dates. His behavior was extremely strange. When police asked why he had condoms, he vaguely responded that he had broken into 2 neighboring apartments and simply decided to take them from there. In other words, he openly admitted to entering other people's homes just a few feet away from Lauren's apartment. Police arrested him for burglary and took him in for questioning.
Macon police say a canine unit from Dooley County has volunteered to help in the search for the remains of murdered Mercer grad Lauren Giddings. Macon police are following several leads in the case, but so far have no official suspects. Giddings' neighbor, 25-year-old Stephen McDaniel, remains in jail tonight on unrelated burglary charges. Police continue to gather statements from students and neighbors in what they're calling a detailed, painstaking process.
Even though he had been eager to talk to reporters earlier and seemed to want to know everything that was going on, now he completely shut down and said nothing at all.
All right. I just gotta ask you a few more questions.
Okay.
You came down earlier tonight, me and you talked, all right? You don't have any weapons on you, do you?
No.
That's just you are. What's wrong? You know Detective Patterson, right?
Yes.
Do you remember? Put your hand up here. You remember us talking? I need you to know about this girl right here. You know her?
Yes.
Who is that?
Lauren Giddings.
Does she live next door to you?
Yes.
Okay. Look at me when you talk to me, son. Okay? Was you friends with her?
Yes.
I'm asking you for help. I need your help. Can you help me?
I don't know.
You don't know if you can help me?
Yes.
I need your help. Help me out. Tell me what to do.
There were contradictions in what he was saying, and he answered questions reluctantly, mostly with yes, no, or I don't know.
What do you think happened to her?
I don't know.
Do you even care that no one can find her? I mean, I don't know, do you?
Yes.
Well, you know there was a body found in the trash can next to the apartments.
Yes.
And it's a female, white female's body, right next to y'all's apartment. We don't know 100% sure it's Lauren, but we're pretty confident it is. I mean, who would do something to somebody and throw them in a trash can?
I don't know.
And you know why? We've been working all day trying to find Lauren, right?
Yes.
Because her family wants to know where she's at.
Yes.
And I don't know what to tell her family. So I'm asking you, what do I need to tell her family?
I don't know.
It's all on you, brother. What do you want me to tell her family? Huh?
I don't know.
Well, I need to know.
On top of that, his behavior was extremely unusual. Officers said they had never seen anything like it during an interrogation. He sat almost completely still the entire time, barely even moving his head, and at times they had to ask him to look them in the eye. The sped-up footage of the interview clearly shows just how disturbingly motionless he was and how unnatural it looked compared to the normal behavior of the officers in the room. Even when detectives stepped out, he stayed in the exact same position, staring straight ahead. His constant no and I don't know responses began to frustrate Detective Patterson. At that point, he had no doubt left that this was the man behind what had happened to Lauren.
You got your ass on that fucking news and stood out there and gave a media report that her mother saw. You sure stood out there and ran your mouth to the news media, but now you're gonna get out here and you don't fucking know. You're just a sorry piece of shit that don't give a fuck.
Why would you not be honest with me?
I am being honest.
Stephen, it just doesn't feel like it, buddy. You know, I get the sense that there's something weighing heavy on your heart right now.
Stephen, did you hurt Lauren?
No.
What'd you do, buddy?
I didn't do anything.
What'd you do to Lauren?
I didn't do anything.
But by then, it was already late into the night, and they still had not made any real progress in getting answers.
You're gonna look at this right here, this little girl right here, and you're gonna say you don't know? I know you know.
I don't know.
Yes, you know. What are you gonna say tomorrow when I say we got your hair with the body? I believe that you're a good guy, you've been picked on, girls didn't show you the respect that you deserved, you did something stupid, and I believe you feel bad about it, and that's why you're all freaked out right now. We want you to tell it so that way people understand you're not a monster. Things just, you got out of control. It's a sickness. Why'd you do it, Stephen?
I didn't do it.
Stephen, why are you going to keep telling that? You hurt that girl.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did, Stephen. I'm going to take this from me. You don't deserve to look at it. Just stay right here, okay?
Okay.
I appreciate all your cooperation tonight, okay?
Okay.
Stephen also admitted that he had 2 scratches just above his thigh. While the interrogation was ongoing, his apartment was being turned upside down. Investigators discovered that he somehow had a master key that allowed him to access multiple units within the complex. They found packaging from a hacksaw, several flash drives that later revealed disturbing and violent images and videos involving children, and a piece of underwear that, after testing, was confirmed to belong to Lauren Giddings. An analysis of his search history showed that he frequently viewed her social media profiles, often at the same time as consuming violent pornography. It also came out that he had been writing blog posts about torturing and killing women, sharing his disturbing fantasies on online forums. All of this painted a deeply troubling picture, and given how often he searched her name, it was clear he had become obsessed with Lauren. One of his most recent searches was for the trash collection schedule in Macon.
It's all over anyways. The game's over. I mean, we know what you did to her, so we just want to know if you were going to tell us or not.
I didn't do anything.
Well, that's what you say. But we know different, so you're fucked either way. So you can sit there with that dumb look on your face, but it's over.
I don't know what you want me to say.
I want you to say nothing. You're fucked either way. I thought you were smarter than everybody. Somebody always leaves something in a crime scene. You fucked up. At first I didn't really believe you had anything to do with it. They said, man, it couldn't have been him. He used to work down the DA's office with us. He's a good guy. He used to help us out. Friendly guy and everything. Couldn't be him. He couldn't have done something like that. The sad thing about it is you probably could have made something with your life. But you chose a different route because, one, you don't have a girlfriend, and two, you're never going to get a girlfriend.
In a utility room inside the complex, they found a hacksaw that matched the packaging from his apartment, and it had blood on it. Surveillance cameras confirmed that he was the one who had purchased that hacksaw. They also found a blood-stained bedsheet, and it belonged to Lauren Giddings. The maintenance worker had already been ruled out, and the only other person with access to that utility room was Stephen McDaniel. That was the man who killed Lauren. But who really was Stephen McDaniel, and why the hell did he do it? His classmates said it was uncomfortable being around him. He was socially awkward, strange, and difficult to talk to. He would ask people unsettling questions about death, obsess over topics like a zombie apocalypse and the perfect murder, and often push others to explain how they would hypothetically kill someone and get away with it. Back in school, he had even been voted most likely to become famous. His law school classmates said he clearly saw himself as the smartest person in the room, smarter than everyone else, and he carried himself with that kind of confidence. He was always ready to argue, even when he was completely wrong, constantly debating with everyone, including Lauren, and other students said he actively sought out confrontation. He wasn't there to make friends. That was obvious, one of them said. Both classmates and professors described him as an average student, nothing particularly special, even though he spoke as if he were. By that point, he was nearing graduation and had no idea what to do next. He was finishing school with no friends and no real plans for the future. He was just drifting. From the very beginning, after they became neighbors in 2008, Lauren had genuinely tried to be kind to him and include him. At one point, she even stopped to introduce him to her mother, Karen, after noticing him walking alone around the complex. Karen met him again shortly before graduation. There was just something off about him, she said. After that second interaction, she could not shake the feeling that he was living right next door to Lauren. I remember thinking it was strange that he always kept his windows and curtains closed. You never really saw him, she recalled. But no matter how hard Lauren tried to be kind, he had the same effect on her as he did on everyone else. He made her feel uncomfortable. In one of her emails to David back in 2008, the same year she moved there, Lauren wrote about Stephen's behavior and mentioned the conflicts they had during classes. He looks at me with hostility. It feels like he's against me, she wrote. At the same time, Stephen had clearly taken an interest in Lauren and asked her out several times, but she was already in a relationship, and more importantly, she simply did not feel that way about him. From that point on, she remained polite when they crossed paths, but she made sure to keep her distance. Based on all the evidence that had been gathered, on August 2nd, 2011, Stephen McDaniel was charged with the murder of Lauren Giddings. He was later also charged with 7 counts of child sexual exploitation.
Stephen, how are you, buddy?
All right.
Let's ask you a few more questions.
I had nothing to say without my attorney.
You don't want to hear what we have.
I want my attorney.
Even though his attorneys requested bail be set at $100,000, it was set at nearly $1 million. A grand jury indicted him on 1 count of murder, and after full analysis of his devices, he was also charged with 30 counts of child sexual exploitation.
The case building against Stephen McDaniel and the murder of his neighbor, Lauren Giddings, is getting stronger.
Today, a grand jury announced there's enough evidence to prepare for trial.
1 count of murder and 30 counts of sexual exploitation of children. Those are the heavy charges stacked against McDaniel, who's been in jail since July 1st on unrelated burglary charges. More than 20 grand jurors heard from the district attorney's office this morning before deciding there's enough evidence to let this case go to trial. This indictment says evidence shown today leads the grand jury to believe Stephen McDaniel did kill, murder, and cause the death of Lauren Giddings, a human being, by inflicting bodily harm in a manner unknown to the grand jury at this time, including decapitation of said victim. Since the grand jury has decided there is enough probable cause in this case, the next step is arraignment. That's when McDaniel will enter his plea, and according to his attorney, Floyd Buford, it'll be not guilty.
Even though the evidence against him was very strong, the prosecution acknowledged that the case was largely built on circumstantial evidence. Aside from the underwear that had been found, there was nothing directly linking his DNA to hers. No trace of him was found in the bathroom, and none on the hacksaw either. As for the underwear, he could have tried to explain it the same way he did with the condoms, by claiming he had stolen it. They also could not determine the exact cause or time of death. Still, despite all of that, the prosecution remained confident in their case and was ready to go to trial. Not long after, new evidence emerged that confirmed everything, and it was deeply disturbing. On a memory card recovered from his apartment, investigators found a video proving that Stephen had been watching Lauren for a long time. Her fears that someone was observing her and trying to get into her apartment were completely justified. On the very night she was killed, he was filming her apartment through the window. He had taped a camera to a wooden stick and lifted it up to peek inside through the blinds. Prosecutor David Cook said that the moment he saw that footage, his first thought was,
"There he is."
A few days later, hundreds of people gathered at St. Mary of the Mills Church for Lauren's funeral. Despite all the efforts, only her torso had been found, and that was what was laid to rest that day.
Today, the Bibb County District Attorney's Office announced it plans to seek the death penalty against Stephen
McDaniel pleaded not guilty, and his defense began pushing the claim that police had framed him and repeatedly entered his apartment to plant evidence. In another unexpected twist, one of his attorneys who worked with him for a time had previously been one of Lauren's instructors, teaching a course on transitioning from law school into legal practice. He said he admired Lauren Giddings and enjoyed teaching her, but remembered one important detail: she was against the death penalty. So, knowing that prosecutors were pursuing that punishment, he tried to have it taken off the table. As everyone prepared for what was expected to be a difficult trial, the prosecution agreed to drop the child exploitation charges and offered a plea deal. And that meant Stephen, after consulting with his attorneys, changed his position. In April 2014, just 1 week before the trial was set to begin, Stephen McDaniel finally pleaded guilty to the murder and dismemberment of Lauren.
For nearly 3 years, two huge unanswered questions hung over the death of Lauren Giddings. What happened the night she died, and what happened to the rest of her body, since only her torso was found after the murder. Today, Stephen McDaniel spelled out the answers to those questions in chilling detail. As part of his plea deal with prosecutors, McDaniel agreed to write an allocution, a document detailing what he did and how.
Stephen McDaniel is a psychopath who cowardly allowed darkness and evil to consume him. He should never be permitted to prowl the streets of this world again.
That is the voice of Karen Giddings, the mother of Lauren Giddings, the Mercer law grad who was killed almost 3 years ago.
Today, Stephen McDaniel entered a guilty plea to the murder of Lauren Giddings. His guilty plea provides finality to this case and assures justice that cannot be undone. Because of this guilty plea, Stephen McDaniel will never again be able to deny that he and he alone is responsible for Lauren Giddings' death.
One of his former attorneys said that things took a sharp turn for McDaniel once evidence from his computer started coming in, and there was more and more of it. Investigators kept uncovering additional material connected to his computer and camera, and eventually he agreed that it was enough to secure a conviction. Before sentencing, the prosecution presented evidence that reflected his character. They showed video footage from Lauren's apartment and read out some of his alleged posts from online forums. In one of them, it said,
I graduate from law school. I celebrate by drinking alone in front of my computer. I see my sexy neighbor and classmate come home late. I invite her over for one last drink. I make her a special cocktail, a Mickey Finn, a drink meant to knock someone out. She loses consciousness. I finally lose my virginity. Oh no, she overdosed and died. I cooked her arms and legs to celebrate losing my virginity. I don't like organs, so I threw the torso away. I put on a dramatic show on TV while the police find her remains. So what? Are you mad losers?
However, the authenticity of that post was questioned. Some believed it could have been internet trolling. And while the prosecution was convinced he was the one who wrote it, the issue remains debated to this day. As part of the plea agreement, he was required to give a detailed account in court of what happened that day, and this is what he said. Around 4:30 in the morning, he used a master key to unlock her door. He was dressed entirely in black, wearing gloves and a mask. He said he stood there watching her as she slept, but she must have sensed something was wrong and suddenly woke up. Before she had a chance to get up or understand what was happening, he rushed at her and wrapped his hands around her throat. They struggled and fell to the floor. He said Lauren grabbed his mask and pulled it off. When she realized who it was, she called him by name and screamed for him to stop. She cried and fought back for nearly 15 minutes while he strangled her until she stopped breathing. He dragged her into the bathroom and placed her in the bathtub, where she remained through the night and into the next day. On the evening of June 27th, he returned with tools, including a hacksaw, and began dismembering her body, which he described in detail. He placed the body parts into separate bags and, according to him, disposed of them in trash containers around the university area. He left the torso in a container near the apartment complex, believing it would be quickly taken away. He cut up his mask, gloves, and t-shirt and flushed them down the toilet. The medical examiner had previously stated there were no signs of sexual assault, and Stephen claimed he did not commit any.
She was wearing pink running shorts when she died, and I didn't remove them. They were found on her torso exactly the way I left them, he said in court.
Even nearly 3 years later, people still found it hard to believe. From the very beginning, Lauren had only ever been kind and friendly to him, and even Stephen himself admitted that. He claimed that after that night, he was in a state almost like a dream or a haze, convincing himself that Lauren was still alive.
It's hard for me to explain why I killed Lauren and tried to cover it up the way I did. I know it was deeply wrong. I'm not insane, and I'm not without morals or decency. I guess it's something in my nature, in my psychology, something neurological, something in my own pathology, he said.
He told her family that he was sorry and that he thinks about Lauren every day, but that he does not expect their forgiveness. I will never be able to deserve it. If I could take it all back, I would. According to him, the only reason the prosecution ultimately did not pursue the death penalty was because Lauren herself had been strongly against it. Her family respected that and said they hoped he would live a long life under the worst possible conditions in prison. Stephen McDaniel was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole until 2041. After the sentencing, he wrote a long letter from prison claiming he had been pressured by police and that the case had been unfair from the very beginning.
Continue to get new glimpses into the psyche of Stephen McDaniel. In a neatly handwritten 2-page document filled with small lettering, Stephen McDaniel outlines his experiences with Macon police. He complains that police yelled at him and intimidated him in an interrogation room for hours during the early stages of the investigation and wouldn't even let him go to the restroom without permission. McDaniel details being so upset he suffered a seizure and required medical help, but was only told that the EMT could look at him if he'd allow police to search his apartment. He says even after they got into his apartment, police never gave him medical care.
He demanded a new trial, one he believed would be fair. 4 years later, he filed an appeal, representing himself, and called more than 10 witnesses to testify, including his former attorney from whom he also sought compensation. The situation took a dramatic turn later that day when McDaniel began questioning his former lawyer, Floyd Buford. He waived attorney-client privilege, allowing Buford to speak openly about their conversations.
On top of that, you possess the most horrific child pornographic photos I've ever seen.
Now, in McDaniel's habeas, he claims that Floyd Buford, Frank Hogue, and the rest of his defense team failed to represent him effectively. Here's what Buford had to say today about that.
Started off facing the death penalty. He ended up with life and possibility of parole. You could get out one day, Stephen.
In his complaint, Stephen demanded that the court order his attorney to repay $50,000 in legal fees and an additional $250,000 in punitive damages for alleged negligence. He also filed a motion against Bibb County Judge Howard Sims claiming bias. That appeal was denied. In 2022, at the age of 37, he filed another appeal arguing that the prosecution had taken documents, his rights had been violated, and his attorneys had been ineffective. He demanded that his conviction be overturned and that he be released from prison. His father, Mark, supported him, saying, "We just want the truth to come out. That's all we want." However, the judge refused even to consider the appeal because it had been filed more than a year past the deadline. If McDaniel had exercised due diligence instead of blaming the Georgia Supreme Court, he would have realized the motion was filed too late, the judge added. That appeal was also denied. Stephen has since filed another appeal, which is still pending. Some of his relatives and friends continue to believe in his innocence. His father even created a GoFundMe page to raise money for legal expenses, but it received no donations and was quickly taken down. Lauren's sister Caitlin called it pathetic and completely out of touch with reality. His grandfather, Hollis, who has since passed away, once gave an interview about visiting his grandson in prison.
If everything the police are saying is true, then I'm just a broken grandfather. You go to see him, and he sits there quietly. You can't get a word out of him. You just want to take him to a doctor, but he's a grown man now, and it breaks your heart. You have to accept reality for what it is, whether you want to or not. I did what I thought was right. I hired him a lawyer right away. I thought I'd be able to post bail and bring him home, but God, when I saw him, he was different.
His mother, Glenda, also defended him and was convinced that at the time of his arrest, he was innocent. "I'll hug him when he gets out, and he'll hug me," she said. She even talked about imagining him one day becoming a Supreme Court judge. But for the police, the prosecution, and Lauren's family, the case was already closed, and the right decision had been made back then. Lauren's sister, Caitlin, said, "This isn't a story where you tell your kids to lock their car doors or avoid certain neighborhoods. There's no, she shouldn't have done that, and this wouldn't have happened. You should always be kind to people. You should be kind to your neighbors. Just because someone seems different doesn't mean they're dangerous. But in this case, he was." Detectives believe that day they stopped a potential serial killer, a predator, and a threat to children. He had once been voted most likely to become famous, and now he had become infamous for one of the most shocking crimes this community had ever seen. Police noted that Lauren's family and friends raised the alarm very quickly, and they acknowledged that if the trash service had emptied the container where her torso was found, the case might have gone unsolved, and Stephen may never have been caught. Investigators also believe he was never fully truthful and that there is more to this story than he ever revealed. "I'm sure there are things he will never tell anyone," said Detective David Patterson. Lauren's sister, Sarah, added, "We know she's gone, but we don't believe everything Stephen McDaniel says. I don't think he's an honest person. He could come up with a million different stories. He has a very vivid imagination." The search for the rest of Lauren's remains is still ongoing, and investigators believe they may be somewhere on a 62-acre property that once belonged to one of Stephen's relatives. Although he will be eligible for parole in 2041, legal experts believe he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Lauren's family continues to mark every milestone and every important moment she should have been part of, as if she were still there with them. They also organize annual runs in her memory. Her sister Caitlin named her daughter Lauren Magnolia in her honor. There are 2 memorial plaques dedicated to her, one at Mercer Law School and another on a pink bench in Washington Park in downtown Mercer, a place where she loved to run. Lauren's family also established the Lauren Teresa Giddings Scholarship. At the law firm where she interned, Lauren was known for wearing bright colors, especially pink, They even started calling Wednesdays Pink Wednesdays in her honor, joking that she was like Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. One of her close friends said that her choice of color in an environment usually filled with neutral and conservative tones always brought a smile and sparked conversation. She stepped into a profession full of dark suits and pinstripes. Pink was her way of saying, "World, I'm ready for you," she said. Friends say that perfectly describes Lauren Giddings. She knew how to stand out and never apologized for it, driven, energetic, and ready to take on anything. Caitlin said, "It's not that she's no longer part of our lives. She is. It's just different now."